out with two officers, and they're both high on arms. They're striking the suspect. They start to get to a shoulder pull and control both arms, which is good. And they have him up in that barrier, but nobody is actually pinning his hips to the barrier, which is causing some issues. Depending on the use of force, we don't mind strikes, but a better solution here might be to pin them on that barrier like we teach. So again, we see both officers on arms, no one's controlling the hips. So when we're in that vertical position, our knees need to come together and split the suspect's legs. We can affect his base that way. We can pin him on the wall. If we choose to go to the ground, okay, then one of those officers should go from being high, dropping to the legs, securing the legs as an anchor position, bringing them to the ground, and then going into proper top control. Out with two officers, and they're both high on arms.
Welcome back. Another episode of Old School Cops presented by PBM. You got the three-man squad, the best squad in media, right? The most experienced squad. We got my partner Shane, who was a Red Dog operator, street enforcement, guns and drugs. You got the OG, city cop, did so well, became a federal agent. Tremendous amount of accolades between all three of us here. So when we come on this panel and you guys send this video, we give you assessment. We're giving you a real unbiased assessment. We're not police apologists. We are black men coming from a black community and went back to police a black community. So we're telling you from through our lens of understanding the balance of both the community and law enforcement. I appreciate you guys sending the video. Please keep sending those videos in. This particular video, right? Somebody said, "What do you think?" Right? I'm all for officers having additional training. Right? Before I went into the police, I boxed, so I don't mind, because I think you should be comfortable with going hands-on. You should be comfortable tussling with somebody, right? But where I have a problem when you have guys like this, which he's not a police officer. You got to be able to balance out your use of force. You got to be able to balance out what you learned on the side and what your tactics in policing allows you to do. Because if you go in and you don't balance it correctly, like he's saying, it's fine for the officers to keep striking this guy in the face, right? I have a problem with that, because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Our policy says we need, as our policy, law enforcement policy, the type of force we need to use is based on the amount of resistance or fight a subject is giving us, right? So what that means is I can't go, like, if I'm I'm a guy that took a lot of courses outside of policing, right? And then start pounding on this dude according to the training that I received, but my training don't coincide with policy, because his resistance, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4 officers there, might not justify me pounding him in the face like that. You know, you're going to talk, some people argue the distractionary strikes. You got to be careful with outside training, because it may not warrant those type of strikes depending on that type of resistance. So I have to explain to you guys, there's a real fine line to balance when you start using outside tactics and it's not police tactics. He's saying it's cool. I'm saying it's not, because the guy's not putting up a real big fight, you know. So, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4 officers there. I'm not feeling that. I think that's excessive. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 officers should be able to wrestle this guy to the ground and forcibly put his hands behind his back and cuff him. You got to understand, it's the minimum amount of force necessary to effect that arrest. The most reasonable amount of force necessary to effect that arrest. You got 4 officers there. Punching this guy repeatedly in the face is not the minimum amount. It's not reasonable. Now, our objectives, these officers' objectives, is to get this guy in custody. We're told you can't beat somebody in the custody. They're straight beating this guy and trying to beat him into custody. No, we have to literally grab his arms and force him into custody. Pounding him and pounding him and pounding him would not justify or be consistent with law enforcement policy. That's what I got to say about that. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You know, being an officer, we took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And we learned certain techniques to do sweeps, takedowns, and holds. When you got him close. There's a lot of things we can do to take a suspect down without strikes. A lot of people that I've took down, I didn't have to strike at all.
Mhm.
We were trained. Someone take the upper body, someone take the lower body. If I grab the legs and you grab the upper body, that person is going down neatly and safely. Again, I don't know what us being trained, us being African American, being black. I didn't have to learn us knowing how to fight. There's a lot of things you can do to take down a suspect. You control the head, you control the midsection of the body, you control everything. People don't understand that. It's very simple techniques. I feel that, Joe, that all law enforcement officers should get some type of training. But like you mentioned, learn how to use it correctly. This was done incorrectly. You and I, and as old as we are right now, you can call us old fogies or farts. We have no problem taking that young man down.
Mhm.
I'll have no issue. If I was by myself, I'll have no issue taking this young man down. The key is knowing, like you said, the threshold is what we're able to use, what we learn, and what you're not able to use. And if it falls within policy and procedure, and I can't see 5 officers striking this person in the face
Right.
falls into policy and procedure. How do if I'm in the courtroom, right, and I'm sitting before the judge and I'm being cross-examined by the
Defense attorney.
defense, how am I able to articulate and justify this to the judge and to the jurors that what am I doing? I needed to do this to take them down. How are you going to walk a jury through the process with that? I can't see myself doing that. So you got to think about that as a law enforcement officer. That's the one thing you got to think about. But again, as you mentioned, Joe, there's a fine line between what you can use from the outside and take it to the inside. And if you got more training from the outside, you automatically calmer. I'm calm when it comes to dealing with a suspect. I'm not all up in arms. Oh, what I got? No, because I have training, I have experience, I know what to do. I got a brain, a mouth, and I'm good with my hands. So I'm not really concerned and uptight and he's resistant. That's unnecessary. So I have to agree with you, Joe. OG, your thoughts, sir?
The biggest thing we have to start doing is practicing what we preach. You have to practice these things. When you're in training of becoming a law enforcement officer, you have to practice it. You have to practice with the people that you're working with the most. DEA training taught us some things that, most of us in law enforcement already know how to do. But the one thing it doesn't teach you how to do is to do it when you are under stress. And that only comes from experience. So they create scenarios for us that allowed us to be able to experience some stressors that would cause us to think. So flash back to when there were 4 of us fighting with a 140-pound man who was on PCP at the time. Mm-hmm. And me and this other big guy, we got his legs, and we're trying to get his arms behind his back. And I looked at him and I said, look, let's just punch him in the gut. He's got to breathe. And once he breathes, we can pull his arms back and handcuff him. That was the plan. It only took one punch from each of us in his gut. We punched him, he let out the air, and we were able to pull his arms behind him. It stopped after that. The female who was sitting on his head, she was controlling it. We had his arms and his legs, and we worked the plan. So, you have to come up with a plan when you're working with your guys, when you work with people that you work with all the time. So that when you do things, it's coordinated and it makes sense. You're talking to each other and you're making things happen. Now, let me back up. When shit hit the fan and you deal with somebody who's spaced out or who's out of control, all bets are off. It's ass whooping time. And whatever you got to do to get that person subdued, you do it. Okay? It's either him or you. So you got to make a decision on that. But in circumstances where someone is not as cooperative, you got to gauge their cooperation and gauge your response accordingly. Now, if somebody wants to walk in and give us some training, what are your credits? What situations have you been in? What can you tell us about when things happen? How many times have you had your ass whooped? And how many times have you whooped ass? Okay, so let's talk hood rats, Joe. Where we come from, when it comes time to throw knucks, you know when it's on. And you deal with it. You deal with it. Now, I lost a few. I ain't gonna lie, I lost a few. But once I got a little size on me, they didn't try me no more. Okay, they didn't try me no more. When they saw me sacking the quarterback, 3, 4, 5 times in one night, they knew not to mess with Ted Golden because he was whooping them defensive linemen's asses. But what I'm saying is this: the voice of experience always pays off, and when you've been there, you know how to handle yourself. When you ain't been there, them the punk mugs that pull guns and shoot people unnecessarily. So my thing is this: when you hang with somebody and they're your boy, you need to make sure that your boy know how to handle himself when time comes. And y'all need to plan how you do things. And when things don't work out, okay, man, you messed up right here. This is what you should have done. We got to have that OJT going on, Joe, right?
Yeah, all the
You know what I'm talking about, Shane? That OJT. We're gonna write what happened, but next time, this is the way we got to do this. All I can say is it's a time and place for everything, and you got to make sure that when it's your time and your place, that you handle your business. And like I said before, I want to make sure I emphasize this: when it's ass whooping time, and you are in fear of your life, all bets are off, and everything is legal. Everything is legal. Grabbing nuts, hitting folks in the larynx, bashing folk up inside their noses so that they have some problems breathing, and even the chokehold. If it's just you and them, guess what? What's the old saying, Shane? I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6.